Hey, it's Sela Social Studies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sela Social Studies. Today we're going to be covering something that you can say one of our last founding fathers. This was one of our last founding fathers really to become president, and that would be James Monroe and the Monroe Doctrine. So what is James Monroe and the Monroe Doctrine going on here? On December 2nd, 1823, James Monroe addressed to Congress. He says that he has a new policy on the new political order developing in the rest of the Americas and the role of Europe in the Western Hemisphere. We are the Western Hemisphere here in the United States. Like you can see in the picture right there, you see Uncle Sam on the right. He's kind of drawn a line and he says this is the Monroe Doctrine. You have to remember by 1823, the United States, as what you could call what we would be the United States, we have already won a Revolutionary War. We kicked Britain out with the Revolutionary War. We started the United States of America. We started our own government. We have somebody leading our nation now. So we are really coming into our own. Washington knew the importance of staying out of foreign affairs. He says, don't get involved in any foreign wars. Stay to ourselves. Stay isolationists. Let them do whatever they're going to do over there. And let's take care of ourselves. Let's practice self-preservation. Let's build ourselves up. So you have the Revolutionary War. Then you have the War of 1812, our second war of independence. And again, the British come over, fight America, and we again defeat the British in the War of 1812. So now the United States has effectively defeated like the largest superpower in the world during the 1800s with Britain. I mean, the British Empire was huge. They have, been fighting wars in Europe since like the dawn of time. And, the United States now are 2-0 in wars against them. So this is James Monroe flexing the muscles of the United States. And here's what he says. He takes this Monroe Doctrine, this foreign policy plan that he's developing, and pushing it forward. And let's dive into it here. The Monroe Doctrine becomes a long-standing tenet of U.S. foreign policy, and actually Teddy Roosevelt kind of really leans heavily on this Monroe Doctrine when he becomes president too, and trying to deal with the affairs of Latin and South America. It was a foundation of American diplomatics, such as disentanglement from European affairs and defense of neutral rights. Defense of the neutral rights. Remember, we wanted to stay neutral and stay away from those European affairs. Hence, there is Uncle Sam drawing that line, and that line says the Monroe Doctrine. So now let's get into the doctrine itself. That's a really good picture. I love that picture that describes the Monroe Doctrine. It says, what do you mean off limits? And there's a big stop sign, and there's a line in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that says Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine has three major concepts. Number one, we should have separate spheres of influence for the Americas, which is North America and South America, and Europe. They should be totally different. Europe should not be coming over to the Western Hemisphere and having a sphere of influence, controlling lands over here. They shouldn't do that. The United States should do that. They shouldn't do that in Europe. We should be able to do it. Number two, non-colonization, and number three, non-intervention. These are designed to signify a clear break between the New World, which is the Western Hemisphere, North America, the United States, South America, Latin America, and the autocratic realm of Europe. So Europe has lots of kings, they have lots of queens, they have monarchs over there, they are colonizing the world, and the Monroe Doctrine is basically saying this: we are going to divide. We are going to divide our world into the Eastern and Western hemispheres. And the United States is going to control the Western hemisphere, and Europe can go ahead and do whatever they want with the Eastern hemisphere. So Monroe's administration warns those European powers, he warns those monarchs, he warns those European countries against interfering with the affairs of the newly independent Latin and South American nations over here in the United States territories. They're saying, you keep out. That's why I said, what do you mean off limits? That's what the Monroe Doctrine does. It's basically putting the foot down, drawing that line in the sand, and telling European powers, warning them, hey, stay out of our business. Here's another picture that I like. Somebody drew it. It says, no touch. Don't touch. He's telling European countries to stay out of the Western Hemisphere. The United States will take care of the trading and the colonizing of the rest of the Western Hemisphere, like Latin America. Okay, so this was the idea. The United States, especially citizens, wanted to influence trade ties throughout Latin and South America. So they wanted to take over the Western Hemisphere economically. Okay, and when Teddy Roosevelt becomes president, the Panama Canal is getting built, and that's another thing. It's like, hey, European nations, stay out, because at the beginning of the Panama Canal, France was building it, right? Finally, they go bankrupt, and the United States takes over, and they're like, psh, right? Here, I'm going to go ahead. Roosevelt uses his corollary, kind of directly connects it with the Monroe Doctrine, and says, European nations, stay out of the Western Hemisphere. We are going to control, colonize, economically influence, trade with Latin and South America. So the United States is really starting to flex its muscles with control over lands in the Western Hemisphere, specifically Latin and South America.